see if we're good here. All right, we should be good. So hey there, gang. Patrick King here, and I want to thank you so much for tuning in for today's special chat. Today, I want to introduce you to a great new online learning opportunity with Anja Beran. I'm pleased to be joined today with Anja. Anja is committed to preserving the classical art of riding. She spent many years in Portugal, riding with Senor Luis Valença, who's also one of my teachers, and also with Manuel Oliveira. In Germany, she spent 16 years under the tutelage of Marc de Broisia, training horses of all breeds before eventually managing and running Gut Rosenhof in Roderstride, Bayern, Germany. Anja's written several books and articles and has produced DVDs focusing on the classical development of the horse and rider. More recently, she's focused her attention on developing online programs to help riders around the world to improve with their horses. And today, I'm excited to chat with her about the new online program that she's making available, focusing on canter work. Anja, thank you so much for making the time to join me today to talk about this course.
Hello, thank you for inviting me again.
It's great to have you here. So for the listeners that are tuning in that maybe haven't yet heard of you or don't really know what you're all about, can you give us a little bit of a description? Who's Anja Beran? What does she do?
Yes, we run a training center here in Bavaria, south of Germany, and we train all kinds of breeds. So we have from Arabs to Iberian horses, to German horses, sometimes also heavy horses like Shires, Haflingers, Irish Draught. So everything is welcome because we learn with every horse. And some years ago, we started the Russian horses, what is also very, very interesting. And we have we had 55 horses, most of them stallions here. Okay. And now we reduced a little bit because we want to work more, how should I explain, more intensive with each horse. So now we have some horses less to work even more with these few horses. Yes.
Great, to get a little deeper and
yes,
more personal. Perfect. Good, very good. And you train, if I understand it right, you train a lot of horses for circus work, is that correct?
Yes, for almost 28 years now. I train just the school horses, so not the Liberty horses, just the school horses it's the biggest circus in Europe. They have almost 100 horses. Wow. And I have the riding horses here. And that's a very good and interesting work because the horses stay with me minimum 6 or 7 years. So I get them when they're 3 years old, and then they go to the circus around 10 when they are 10.
Okay.
And that's interesting because then they really have a long life. Most of them, they work until they are 28, 29 years old.
Fantastic. Wow. Wow. So you get to spend a lot of time with them, developing them the whole way through their process of becoming performance horses then, is that right?
Yes, because in this circus, they want training very classical. So you are just, for example, the horse is not allowed to rear. If you do something, you're allowed to train Lateral. And the rest should be very classic, or lateral movements, flying changes, pirouettes. Okay, then you do Spanish walk. It's a little bit out of the classical normal dressage. And of course, we try with the horses sometimes kneeling or so, because it looks good. But the rest is all very, very classical.
Okay, fantastic. And how would you define classical?
Classical is for me, is the only real dressage because it's always in harmony with the nature of the horse. That means we don't do any movements that the horse would not do alone when he's outside on the field. So just natural movements. And the second point is we give the horse all the time he needs to develop his body and also his not brain, that he is really healthy in his head. So we don't push him, we give him the time he needs to learn everything. And is all based on gymnastic. So all exercises like the piaffe or the pirouettes are the result of gymnastic and not of, how can you say, stupid training. Yes,
I think that's a good way to describe it. Yeah.
Yes, it's not like with the dog, you tell him sit and you try, sit like this. No, it's the result of a good gymnastic is a piaffe or a pirouette. And that's the secret of classical training.
Perfect. Yeah, everything progressive and understood well. And
yeah.
Yes. All right, fantastic. So now you've got this new online course that we want to chat about today, and I'm really excited about this. It looks like a fantastic course, and thank you so much for sending me the video clips ahead of time and that sort of thing that I could take a look at this. It looks really great. But who would you say this course is for? So we're talking about the Canter here, but who would you say specifically this course is designed for?
Yes, for all people who have problems to do, for example, a correct lead canter.
Okay.
Other riders who have problems because they have maybe a special horse like a trotter or a Frisian and have problems because of that doing
Yes.
canter. And people who have problems with their seat, and riders who are afraid of doing canter, because that's also really a big story. And it's a pity, because for me, doing canter is the most beautiful thing you can do with a horse, no? And gives you really a good feeling. So it's a pity if you are always afraid of doing this. So we also talk about the seat and being afraid of canter, and lead canter, counter canter. Some people, they are good in cantering the horses, but then they don't know how to come to counter canter.
Okay.
So that's also a big point, and the lateral movements in canter.
Great. So it sounds like a very comprehensive course.
And of course, one of my biggest points is always how you get a really fine communication with your horse. So how you can give your aids more and more fine, that nobody can see that you want to start canter.
Okay.
And how to come back, for example, to walk without anybody can realize what you do. And so this is really something deep in my heart. I want to transfer to people how to organize the communication with the horses with really, really fine aids.
I love the way that you describe that, organizing the communication with the horse. I feel like that's such a big thing there. So talking about I'm seeing on the course that you have several chapters in the course. It looks like 5 chapters, and it's a 10-week course. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, that's great. So I'm assuming then each chapter is 2 weeks, or are some longer, shorter?
Yes, it's about 2 weeks. I think we cannot learn all this really with our horses in 2 weeks, but gives you a line. And of course, I think most of the riders need more time. Even I need more time. Sure. But it's already a line you can follow. And the first chapter gives you basic information about canter. We are talking about the correct aids for lead canter. We are talking about of being afraid and why, and what can you do against this, and how to get a good seat, of course. And in the second chapter, we talk about young horses, because many people, they start with a young horse or buy a young horse, and then they have problems of doing canter because the horse is getting hot or is not in the lead canter, is in a crossed canter, and so on. So the second chapter is about young horses. And the third one is, for me, the most important, because is how you do transitions, walk, canter, walk, because this is for me the base for all the work you do later, for lateral movements, for pirouettes, for flying changes. This walk, canter, walk, the transitions are so important. So the whole chapter is about this.
Fantastic. And we could say that the transition from walk into canter is really, and canter down to walk, is really what develops the quality of the canter itself. Is that right?
Yes, develops the quality, is even what Nuno Oliveira, he said, you have to do many, many transitions. And on the other hand, it gives the horse a lot of strongness in the hindquarters and in the back. And all these transitions give you as rider more and more the chance to give your aids more and more fine. Because in the beginning, when we start riding, we are very happy, we give aids and the horse is doing canter. Oh yes, we are great, we have put the horse into canter. But then later, for example, sometimes in a lesson, I make 50 transitions and there's just one I'm happy with. So I made 49 not good in my feeling. Of course, the horse always starts, but I can hear a little bit more fine and hear less rein and less leg and this and this. And so you can, with every transition is a new chance. So you always can try to make it more fine. But you always have to think a lot and to feel, of course, and think, maybe here a little bit less leg, maybe this. I try now almost to do nothing, and let's wait if the horse reacts. That I do also very often. I try to do almost nothing, and sometimes it happens, the horse, he goes, and then I caress him. Sometimes happens nothing, so I have to do a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's this, I call it fine tuning.
Fine tuning, yes.
Yes, you have the chance, more you repeat, more you have the chance to make it more fine.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Great, great. And so that's in chapter 3, the transitions, walk, canter, walk. Great.
Yes.
Great.
And then the next chapter is about the lateral movements in lead canter.
Okay.
Is like travers, half pass. We don't do shoulder in. I don't know in English, I think it's just shoulder 4. So a little bit less by side than shoulder in, because maybe if not, you break the movement.
Yes.
And the last chapter is about the counter canter and the lateral movements you do in counter canter. It's like the renvers or the counter shoulder in.
Okay. Okay. And that gets a whole chapter in itself, that counter canter, because that can be really tricky for riders. Yeah.
Yes. And it's so important to put the horse straight and forward. And we give, of course, many exercises and give lines how people can start the counter canter.
Okay.
So, for example, we describe how to take the diagonal, cut a little the corner in the beginning, don't go too deep into the corner, go back the next diagonal, don't move your seat, and all these very important details we have to talk about. If no, we will have no success.
Yes. Yes. What do you feel is one of the biggest challenges that riders have, or maybe not the biggest challenge, but a common challenge that you see with riders in the counter canter?
In the counter canter?
Yeah.
Is that people, for example, in the beginning, I always tell them, try to do it on a diagonal and just the short side and come back. And then end of the diagonal, I don't know why, but riders think now something happens. And then they contract or they move, and then the horse starts to do a flying changes or goes into cross canter or stops or something. So I always tell them, sit very calm, don't move, just pray.
Yeah, just pray. I love it.
Pray and let the horse go. And then normally the horse stays in his rhythm, because the big art is not to break the rhythm. So if you sit still and pray, you don't break the rhythm and let him go. And then the horse makes it normally.
Perfect. And I see that as very common a challenge as well, as the rider overrides.
Yes, they move or something, and then
as though they're going to push him into it.
Or pull on one rein, and the horse immediately starts to lose the balance, and something happens.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Just sit quiet and pray. I love that advice. That sounds like most of my rides anyway. Try to sit quiet and just pray.
Pray. Me too. And don't take too much reins. Never ever.
Right. Exactly.
The reins are always a problem.
Yes. Oh, goodness. So then that's fantastic. This sounds like a really, really great course. And so I'm seeing that you have within the courses, you have videos, you have downloads, it looks like you have also a chance for participants to interact with you during question and answer sessions also. Is that right?
Yes, we have a closed Facebook group, and we have a question and answer every 2 weeks. Okay. We can come together and I will answer all the questions. And for riders who have no time this evening, we will make a video of it and put it on Elo page, and they can see it later.
Perfect. Okay, so they can review it again afterwards.
Yes, of course.
Great. And that just brought up a question in my mind here. So let's say riders going through the course, and they go through the first 2 weeks, the first chapter, and then they move on to the second chapter. You're cantering with the young horses. If they want to go back and review the past chapters, are they able to do that?
Yes, of course. They can watch everything, I think, for 6 months.
Okay.
Yes, and they can download the course at least, so they have it for the lifetime.
Oh, perfect. Good. So they can constantly go back and review and check in. And
because I think it's very important, because we will never manage all these problems in 2 weeks. I mean, right. So they can later try it very calm and repeat.
Perfect. That's great. And so then the downloads, I saw something about PDF downloads, and is there like patterns that I saw, things like that as well?
Yes.
Okay.
It's Yes, you can PDF and video and everything you can download, the complete program. Yes,
Perfect.
we have graphics, we have exercises, we have theory lecture. You can even hear it in your car, the theory lecture.
Okay.
So, yes, it's
Great.
all well prepared.
Perfect. And that gives everybody of all learning styles the chance to be able to digest that also, because some of us will learn better by listening to it, some better by watching it happen, and all of us by riding it, of course.
Yes, of course, you can listen, you can watch, and at the end is the problem with me was like this. Sometimes you understand things 1 year later. And if you download the course, you can see again, now I know what she wanted to say.
Great.
And I think that's very important.
Yes, yes. I know I find myself thinking that all the time. Something one of my teachers might have said 10 or 15 years ago. I think, oh, that's what they meant. Yeah. And then maybe a year later, I think, no, that wasn't it. This is what they meant, right?
Yeah.
That constant progression of learning.
The grandmother of the circus, she said to me, it was more than 30 years ago, because the arena in the circus is really small. It's 13 meters, just the circle.
Oh,
and then she told me, the most difficult thing is always to have the horse really forward. And I said, I was 18 or so. I said, yes, of course. And 25 years later, I realized, yes, now I know, I understand what she wanted to say, to have the horse forward in this small circle about years and years. That's really difficult.
Yes, yes. And that forward there is as much energetic as emotional and all of those.
Yes, the horse is not holding himself back, because the place is very small and he has to work. He has to do like a Grand Prix every day on 13 meters.
Okay.
And of course, the horses, they are very quick behind your aids.
Yes, yes. It would be easy for them to just kind of close down or yeah.
And that's what she wanted to say. And I said, yes.
It just took a couple minutes for that to register, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. That's great. So let's see, if you don't mind, I'd love to break apart these chapters a little bit and touch on just a couple things, even still within those, if we can. We talked about the challenge with the counter canter, kind of the most common challenge with that. What do you think is one of the biggest challenges, if we go to chapter 1, with the basics of the canter, understanding the aids and the seats? What do you think is one of the bigger challenges there?
One thing is to get independent of the reins, because when the rider is not brave enough, or he thinks maybe the horse is young and hot, I have to take reins more and more. And this is a problem. The reins are very often a problem. And another thing is to get a good lead canter, especially when the horse is young. For me, I always tell the riders, is forbidden to pull on the inside rein, because then the horse is falling on the outside shoulder, and most of the time they start in the wrong or in a cross canter. And this idea of the inside rein, to get this out of the heads of the riders, is sometimes very difficult. So I think the most important thing in chapter 1 is to let the horse go. Don't take reins, and give him maybe a little contraflexion to start in lead canter when you have problems with the lead canter.
Okay, great. Now you mentioned fear of the canter, and I believe you said that that's something that you cover in the first chapter as well.
Yeah.
What would you give as a piece of advice, or what do you think is a big challenge that comes in with the fear of the canter? Because it is something that we see quite often. Many riders experience that, and it seems that many riders are afraid to talk about it because they feel like they're all alone with it, until they start to talk and realize half of their friends are afraid of it also.
Yes, they are not alone. There are many riders, but the problem is sometimes they make the problem bigger, or they cannot solve the problem because they have a young horse. And the young horse is also a little bit nervous when it comes to canter, or gets a little bit hot, or is not balanced. So he has to do bigger jumps in the beginning. He needs the neck and the nose forward, and we have to let him go a little in the beginning. Just to calm him down, we have to let him go. And that's a problem. So I would say the best is if you have a little bit funny feeling if it comes to canter, you should train a lot on a very, very well-trained horse. Really a high school horse, an older horse, which is in a very good rhythm when you start him and will hold on in this rhythm. So you can be concentrated on your seat. You don't have to take reins. If you throw the reins away, it doesn't matter. The horse should stay in the same rhythm. And in a very comfortable canter is also important. And then little by little, you will get a comfortable feeling and you start to trust the horse. And that's the first and for me important thing, no?
Yeah, so it gives them the opportunity to work on themselves and not have to worry about training the horse that they're afraid in the gate anyway.
Yeah, makes no sense.
Right.
And that's the problem. We don't have nowadays too many good schoolmasters. That's the problem, because lots of horses have problems with canter too. And often we have the combination. The rider is afraid of doing canter and the horse has a problem. So how do you want to put these problems together? And it's becoming a huge problem.
It becomes a huge problem, right?
Yes,
right,
so it's always good if one of the two is very good in cantering.
Yes. I was telling a student just yesterday, you can't add tension to tension as a way to try to soften it. It doesn't work.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Okay, great. So then let's see, going into chapter 2 with the cantering the young horses. We talked about, you mentioned that, you know, some of them are a little bit anxious about it, a little worried, and they need to go a little bit more forward. What's a big challenge that you see in the cantering of young horses?
You need a brave rider and a rider who is really able to follow the movement very well, because if the jump suddenly gets a little bit longer and the horse puts the nose forward, the rider should not tremble and lose his seat. The rider always should follow very softly. The movement should always be with the horse and should stay calm also inside, not only with the seat, because that's another thing. If the horse starts to feel the rider is a little bit now nervous, he becomes also nervous. So the rider must be cool with a calm seat and follow the movement, a very flexible rider, and that's important. And let the horse go and search, of course, long lines. So go straight around, big circles, not small circles. Give the horse the chance to find the rhythm and to go forward. That's important.
Perfect. So maybe we would say that the first step for developing the canter in the young horse is developing the emotions within the canter for that young horse. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Great. Okay. And then chapter 3 are transitions on walk, canter, walk. What's a big challenge you find with a lot of horses and riders there?
That's a problem of mentality. Here, for me, the rider has to learn to breathe, to fall into his horse, really to listen to the horse and to work on himself being most sensitive possible. And that's a problem, because sometimes you have riders, they want to do sports on a horse. So they want to move always, they want action, they want to use their muscles, and they are always in a hurry. And if you are in a hurry on a horse, you will never do good transitions, because the secret is, if you do canter, walk, canter, the walk between the canter is the most important part. To have a very balanced canter where the horse is waiting for the new start, but the horse is not doing short and quick steps and waiting and now start again. No, the horse, he should go, I always say, like a cat. He should really touch the ground very soft, should be in complete balance. And then he should listen to you and you just tell him, now, and then he starts. And that's the problem. So the third chapter is really to work, not the transitions, canter, walk, canter, is a work on ourselves.
Yes, fantastic. I know I've often found that my best rides happen when I sit down in the saddle and decide I'm just not going to do anything. And then I don't overdo in those rides. And I feel like
when it's the best moment, when you are tired or you have fever. Very good moments.
Okay, yeah, because you can't overdo.
No, right? You cannot. And then we are really good.
Great. Well, we'll keep that in mind.
Fit and powerful and strong, big problem for the horse.
Yes, that makes perfect sense. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Oh my goodness, I love it. Great. And so then in chapter 4, the lateral movements in the lead canter, what do we find as being one of the bigger challenges in the lateral movements there?
Here, I think it's very often the seat of the rider, because now we have to train to put the forehand a little in another position, to move the hindquarters of the horse. And of course, we ourselves, we have to turn. And then there are many, many riders who make, how do you say, a curve here in the hip.
Yes.
And they start to lean on one side and the weight goes to the other side, and they create a big confusion for the horse, because the aids, the leg and reins, tell the horse to this, and the weight of the rider tells the horse to another thing. So that is very, very difficult for the horse to find out what to do. So here our seat, I think, is one of the most important points to have success.
Yes, and I find that that's true in all of the gaits, not just the canter. Yes, do you find that as well?
No, it's not in all of the gaits. Is in the moment people start to do lateral movements, because then they start to go a little by side and here. Because often when they go straight or even a circle, they are okay. But as soon as they move the horse to one side, they start to lean somewhere. And they don't feel it, and that's a problem. And often they put the leg, for example, you want to go from right to left, you use a little bit more right leg, they put it very high and up.
Okay,
too much in the back. And this is also a big problem, because many horses then start to move the tail and move the skin and don't like it, but they don't feel it because they make too much. And that's a problem.
Right, right. Do you think that that comes from the rider feeling like they have to make the lateral movement happen?
Yes, I think they want to help too much. If you tell them go by side to the right, they do like this and lean over there, and it's not necessary. So they always should stay with the shoulders over the hips, and they should turn. I always tell them in a block, turn all the part of the body and not just the shoulders, because then you have one shoulder more deep and your weight goes to the other side.
Yes.
That's the problem. And many riders, they don't have enough belly muscles or back muscles, because you need both belly and back muscles, and you have to create little by little, how do you say, a stabil seat in the middle part of your body. You have to be very strong
in the rider's core.
Yes, and that's what many people are not. They don't have muscles there. They are very supple there, too supple, and then they can move everywhere.
Right, right. Not stable enough within that.
Yeah.
Okay, great, great. And then we said in the canter, we just need to sit and pray. Because the biggest challenge is that we tend to do too much in there.
Yes, in the beginning. Later, when the horse is really fixed in this exercise and found his rhythm, okay, maybe you can do stupid things, but in the beginning, no.
Yes, yes. Another challenge I see a lot is with many riders and horses is the overbending in the canter. Do you find that as well?
Yes, it's always is not only in counter canter, even in lead canter, if they bend too much, especially when the horse is young or when the horse has problems to find the lead canter, then they are lost. They will never solve the problem. That's why I always tell them do a lot of leg yielding before you start lead canter, because then they have a little contraflexion. They push the weight to the correct side, and then normally the horse starts always correct. Perfect. So the bending and overbending is a big problem. It's a modern problem. I think in the past riders didn't, but now it's very fashion to pull on the inside rein always.
Yeah, to overbend and overflex and yeah. Okay, great. Well, that makes perfect sense. So I think that's fantastic. That gives listeners, an idea, a better piece of what each chapter is going to be talking about. So I have a couple questions that had come in when I was sharing with folks that we were going to be chatting. There were some common themes that came up with questions that riders have. One of the things that they were asking about, and these seem to kind of go all in each of the chapters. So I'm sure that this will be covered within the course itself. But one question that a rider had was, can we talk about achieving a snappy or a smoother, refined transition into canter for a younger or green horse?
Yes. I should explain how to do this?
If you can, if you think we can.
It's very important that we give our aids not that they are a surprise for the horse. The horse should be prepared. So I do it, I put my legs in the position. I always give the start with the outside leg, because it's the outside hind leg of the horse that starts. So if we do right canter, the left hind leg starts. So I give the start, the sign for the start, with the outside with my left leg. So I put the left leg a little bit back. The inside leg is close to the girth, but the horse is not allowed to start. So this is the preparation. So I think ga, put the leg there. The horse is still in walk or trot, whatever you do. I think ga, and when everything is prepared and I feel the second is right, I give the impulsion, and then I think lop. And then the horse is already in the sense, now we are doing canter, and he thinks ga, lop. So like this, you will never have a hard start.
Okay, great, great. Getting the organization and the preparation and the attentiveness.
Preparation, yes.
Yeah, perfect, perfect, great. Another one that came in, the horses that have a tendency to invert or come above the bit in that canter, in the canter or in the transition itself. Is that a challenge that gets covered in the course?
Yeah. Yes, we talk about it because it's very, very often happens that. And the reason is always that the horse is not straight and not forward enough. So the best is to put the horse really, really straight. Maybe a little counterflexion helps a lot. And then I do, for example, a normal trot, give a little counterflexion, and then I open the trot, but stay in contact with the rein, stay in contact with the horse's mouth, and open the trot, 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 always more and more and more and more. And there's a moment the horse feels that it's not comfortable to continue in this very, very large trot. So the horse himself starts, he offers you, he wants to fall into canter, and then you let him fall. And like this, you don't have, because when he makes this with the neck, it's always a break of the movement. He doesn't go on. Before he is going to canter, he makes like a short stop like this. So if he's trotting, 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 and there's, now it would be good to canter, he will fall forward into canter, and he will not do this.
Yes, great. Great. And doesn't stop the movement, like you said.
No.
Perfect.
Yes. But you have to do this for a longer period. If you do it 1 or 2 times, there's no result. Of course, the 1 or 2 times he will start good, but then you have to do it for 3 or 4 weeks, maybe. And then little by little, you reduce the trot. You do it from a normal trot. As soon as the horse makes this, you open the trot, until you are sure now he can do it from a normal trot, and later he can do it from walk.
Perfect. Perfect. Very good. So it's as much about building that horse's confidence in being able to make that transition as it is about getting the snappiness in the organization.
Yes, it's often because they are not straight. Often when they do this, they put a little weight to the outside shoulder. So if you are able to let them fall onto the inside shoulder, they will not do it. As soon as they do, for example, they start right canter and they fall onto the right shoulder, they don't do it. So the counterflexion is very helpful too.
Yes. Okay. Great. Great. Let's see. Then someone had asked about a horse being resistant to their steering or to their half halts when in the canter.
It's maybe too much hand, maybe too much rein.
Okay.
And you should train a lot of the transitions, walk, canter, walk, and you should make the horse very dependent of your seat. So that means I try to make the transition at least without reins. So you can see it even on the movie we have. I do canter with the horse completely without reins, and I just sit and he makes a really good transition to walk. So as soon as you have your horse dependent of your seat, you should stop your own hips. You should not follow the movement anymore. Then the horse feels, I'm a little bit like disturbed in my back. So I slow down. And if you make the horse dependent of your seat like this, you can make the half halts in canter also much better, because then you do them a lot with your seat and just a little bit with the reins. And then the horse will answer much better.
Perfect. Perfect. Great. And that brings us into kind of the next question that came up from quite a few riders. Some thoughts for developing the rider's seat in the canter. And I know you said that's something that you work on in that first chapter there. So I think that's great. That's going to be one I believe that will help quite a few riders.
Yeah.
What would be, you know, the rider that has trouble? I'm picturing in my mind the rider that's cantering and kind of not connected, right? There's a lot of air time between the seat and the saddle. What do we say about that? What could be something that could help that?
Yes, if it's like this, of course, the best is to have lunge lessons in the beginning, lots of lunge lessons, not 2 or 3, maybe 100.
Yeah.
Yes, it's like that. Riding is nothing we learn in 1, 2, 3, or 10 years, not.
Right,
So
right.
the seat is very important. So you should trust your horse. You should not have fear, because then you close your knees and then you go up with the bottom.
Yes.
Another thing is you should breathe very deep, because many riders stop breathing. As soon as they hear canter, they stop breathing, they get red head and they don't continue.
Exactly.
And of course, the horse feels all this and starts also to block in the back, and then it gets uncomfortable. So you should have long legs. Don't press your knees. Just follow the horse with the hips. Don't make the movement from the back to the front, what we see very often. And often we see the upper part of the rider moving a lot, and that's not good. This part should be really calm. It's just your hips that follow. Here you don't move. It's just your bottom and the hips, they follow the movement. And here be calm, breathe, and try to have very, very relaxed arms and relaxed legs. And then you can sit.
Yes, yes. So just sit and pray, right?
Sit and pray, but look for a horse with a comfortable canter and a well-trained horse. If the horse starts to fall inside and outside and going down with the head and running, it's a problem, because then you always have something to do to keep the horse in place again. But if you have a very good schoolmasters, you can be concentrated on yourself, and that's the most important thing, because you can only help the horse when yourself and your seat is really coordinated.
Right, right. To be that point of reference for the horse. Yes, yes. Great. Well, fantastic. Well, I think that covers most of the questions that had come in about that. So kind of in a little bit of a wrap up here, unless there's something, is there something more about the course that we haven't talked about yet that you feel like we need to touch on?
No, I think it's just, as we talked about the contraflexion, and the people today, they use very often the inside rein. So I think there are many information in the course. They are not only concerning canter, it's something we can use for other things too. It's like the lateral movements. What you learn here, you can also use in walk and trot. So there are many things we can use for other situations too. And that's the point, no?
Perfect. Yes. Great. Great. That's fantastic. So what would you say for riders today? What would be one tip or thought, if we've got riders watching this video and they're inspired, so they're going to go out and ride their horse and they're going to be asking for some canter work? What would be one tip that you would give for them to focus on today?
Feel. They should feel and breathe. And of course, they should prepare the horse. Even before they start canter, they should prepare the horse in lateral movements, because then the horse is really mobile, is supple, and all you do good for the horse in walk and trot, you can profit in canter. So if you do a very bad work, for example, some say, my horse in walk, he doesn't move very well, he walks like a camel, in trot, he's a little bit stiff, but I want to do canter. Of course, the canter will not have a good result. So you have to prepare the horse very well in walk, in trot, and then the canter will really be good. Perfect.
That's great. That's great. So now, how can people find out more about this program, and when does it start?
We start 1st of May.
Okay.
And the deadline is, of course, 30th of April, midnight.
Great.
And you can find it on Elo page. You can find it on Facebook or my website, everywhere.
Okay. Okay. Perfect. And I know I'll share, for my listeners, I'll share a link in the description of the video as well as in the comments of this, and we'll make sure that we share links so that folks can find this program, because it sounds like it's going to be a great one and help a lot of riders.
I hope it could be helpful. So we made it already in German language, and people were really happy and very excited. And I saw them people in videos doing canter in the beginning of the course and at the end, and it was a big difference.
Fantastic. Good.
So
good.
We
That
have
had to be great to
results.
feel.
Yes, we
Yeah.
have results.
Yes, perfect. Good. Well, that's what we're all after with our riding and with our learning. And as teachers, we're always after those results. So that's
Yeah.
perfect. Great, great. Well, thank you so much. Gang, I want to thank you very much for tuning in and giving Anja and I your ear for this time. I hope that you look into this great new program as well as her other books, videos, and social media accounts. It's always great stuff. This has been a really fun, special chat, and I hope that you keep following along for future interviews. Anja, thank you again so much for joining me here.
Thank you too.
Thank you so much. We'll end this live video here as we go, and